Marcus Reed wiped the sweat from his forehead as he adjusted the plasma cutter for another deep cut into the asteroid's core. The mining station Titan's edge hummed around him with the constant noise of machines working day and night. He had been working these tunnels for 18 months now, and every day brought new challenges that tested both his skills and his patience. His partner, Tholvak, moved beside him with careful steps. The alien's body was made of living crystal that caught the tunnel lights and threw rainbow patterns on the rough stone walls. Tholvak stood 7 feet tall, and his surface changed colors when he was thinking hard about something. Right now, the crystal alien glowed soft blue, which meant he was focused on the work. The mineral density increases by 0.7% every meter we go deeper, Tholvak said in his voice that sounded like wind chimes. We should adjust the extraction pattern to account for this change. Marcus nodded and made the changes to his equipment. This was how they worked together. Tholvak could calculate exact numbers and predict how the rock would behave, while Marcus used his gut feelings to solve problems that the numbers couldn't explain. Other teams on the station took twice as long to get half the minerals they collected. The deep core tunnels were dangerous work. One wrong cut could cause a cave-in that would crush them both. The exotic minerals they were after could explode if handled wrong. But Marcus and Tholvak had never had a serious accident because they trusted each other completely. You know what this reminds me of, Marcus said as he guided the plasma beam through a particularly tough section of rock. Back at the academy, there was this girl named Yuki who could solve problems that made our professors scratch their heads. We had this quantum physics puzzle that stumped the whole class for weeks. Tholvak's crystal surface flickered from blue to yellow. Tell me about this puzzle. Marcus continued working while he talked. It was about particle behavior in folded space. The math was impossible, and nobody could figure out the right approach. We spent hours in the lab trying different formulas and getting nowhere. Then Yuki walks in during lunch break and looks at our work for maybe 5 minutes. The plasma cutter finished its cut, and Marcus moved to the next section. She didn't use any of our fancy equations. Instead, she drew this simple diagram on the whiteboard showing how the particles might be dancing instead of following straight paths. The professor said it was impossible, but when we tested her idea, it worked perfectly. Tholvak had stopped moving. His crystal form was now pulsing between yellow and red, which Marcus had never seen before. This human female solved a problem that multiple advanced minds could not solve. Yeah, Yuki was always like that, Marcus said with a smile. She had this way of looking at things sideways when everyone else was staring straight ahead. After graduation, she went to work for the Quantum Research Division on Earth. Last I heard, she was studying exotic matter interactions. The alien surface was now flashing bright red and making a high-pitched humming sound. Marcus stopped working and turned to look at his partner. Tholvak, are you okay, buddy? Describe more of this female's capabilities, Tholvak said, and his voice had changed to a harsh, grinding sound like breaking glass. Marcus felt confused by his partner's sudden change in behavior. Well, she was probably the smartest person in our class. Not just book smart, but creative smart, you know. She could see connections that nobody else noticed and come up with solutions that seemed crazy until you realized they were perfect, Tholvak said. Crystal form began to vibrate and crack lines appeared on his surface. How is this possible? Individual intelligence cannot exceed collective processing capacity. I don't know what you mean, Marcus said, feeling worried now. Yuki was just really good at thinking outside the box? Some people are like that. The alien made a sound like shattering glass and stumbled backward against the tunnel wall. No, this cannot be accurate data. Single organic units do not demonstrate superior cognitive abilities to establish systems. Marcus dropped his tools and moved toward his partner. Tholvak, what's wrong? You're starting to scare me here. Your species, Tholvak said, and his voice was getting weaker. How many individuals like this Yuki female exist among humans? Marcus thought about it. I mean, she was special but not unique. Maybe 1 in 1,000 people have that kind of creative brilliance. Why does this matter? Tholvak let out a wail that echoed through the tunnels. His crystal surface was now covered with cracks and he was leaking some kind of glowing fluid. 1 in 1,000, impossible. The statistical probability creates system failure. Other workers came running when they heard the noise. Marcus called for medical help over his device while trying to support his partner who was now shaking violently. "Stay with me, buddy. Whatever's wrong, we'll figure it out." But Tholvak was muttering in his own language now, and Marcus couldn't understand the words. The crystal alien's surface kept changing colors rapidly like a broken display screen. When the medical team arrived, they had to use special equipment just to move Tholvak without getting cut by his sharp edges. Marcus followed them to the medical bay, feeling sick to his stomach. He had just been telling a simple story about an old friend from school. How could that have caused such a violent reaction in his partner? Tholvak had always been interested in human behavior, but never anything like this. Dr. Nash, the station's head medic, was already running scans when Marcus arrived. "What happened down there, Reed? Your partner's readings are unlike anything I've seen." "I was just talking about someone I knew at the academy," Marcus said. "A girl who was really good at solving puzzles." Tholvak started asking questions and then he just fell apart. Dr. Nash frowned at his scanner readings. His neural patterns are chaotic. It's like his entire cognitive system is trying to process information that doesn't fit his basic understanding of reality. Marcus watched his partner lying on the medical table, still twitching and making broken sounds. After 80 months of perfect partnership, something had gone terribly wrong, and Marcus didn't understand what or why. All he knew was that talking about Yuki's intelligence had somehow broken his alien friend's mind, and now he feared their partnership might be over forever. 3 days passed, and Tholvak's condition only got worse. The crystal alien lay in the medical bay making sounds like wind through broken glass, while his surface flickered between colors that Dr. Nash had never seen before. Marcus visited every few hours, but his partner didn't seem to recognize him anymore. "I've contacted every xenobiologist in the sector," Dr. Nash told Marcus during one of these visits. "Nobody has seen anything like this in Tholvak's species. The closest thing in the medical files is something called cognitive cascade syndrome, but that was only theoretical." Marcus sat down beside the medical table where his partner writhed in obvious pain. "What causes this syndrome?" "According to the research, it happens when a being encounters information that fundamentally contradicts their basic understanding of how intelligence works," Dr. Nash explained. "But the cases described were always hypothetical because most species in the galaxy think alike." Tholvak suddenly stopped moving and his surface went completely clear like glass. His voice came out weak but understandable. "Marcus, your stories about the Yuki female have damaged my processing core." "I'm here, buddy," Marcus said, leaning closer. "Tell me what's wrong so we can fix it." "My people are not individuals like humans," Tholvak said slowly. "We are nodes in a vast network that shares all thoughts and knowledge. When one of us learns something, all of us know it instantly. We believe this was how all intelligent life worked." Marcus felt confused. "But you're here talking to me. You make your own decisions." "I am a mobile extension of the collective mind," Tholvak explained. "I have limited autonomy for practical purposes, but my real intelligence comes from connection to millions of others. Individual brilliance like your Yuki female is impossible in our understanding." Dr. Nash was recording everything on his scanner. "So, hearing about human individual intelligence caused a system conflict." "Worse than conflict," Tholvak said, and his surface began flickering red again. "Your species demonstrates cognitive abilities that our entire civilization cannot replicate. One human female solved a problem that should require thousands of connected minds working together." Marcus was starting to understand the scope of the problem. "How many other species work like yours?" "Most of them," Tholvak said. "The Helix Confederation thinks collectively. The ring builders use specialized mental castes where each individual handles one type of problem. The gas dancers share consciousness through chemical exchange. Individual creativity and innovation like humans display is unknown." "But we're not that special," Marcus protested. "We just think differently." Thalvak made a sound like laughing mixed with crying. You think differently, in ways that break our fundamental assumptions about intelligence. Your species has individuals who can leap to conclusions without logical progression and somehow be correct. You solve problems by ignoring established methods and inventing new ones. This should not be possible. Dr. Nash was looking at his readings with growing alarm. Thalvak, your neural patterns are becoming more unstable. We need to find a way to help you process this information safely. There is no safe way, the alien said. My people have been studying humans for 2 years since you joined the consortium. Every report of individual human achievement causes more cases of cognitive cascade syndrome among our analysts. We cannot comprehend how your minds work. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. You've been studying us. All the species have been studying humans, Thalvak said. Your technological development should have taken 50,000 years based on galactic standards. Instead, you achieved spaceflight and quantum manipulation in a fraction of that time. Your individuals make breakthrough discoveries that our entire civilizations struggle to understand. Why didn't anyone tell us this? Marcus asked. Because we did not want to admit that a primitive species had capabilities we lacked, Thalvak said, and his voice was growing weaker again. The consortium invited humans as junior partners to study you closely and determine if you represented a threat to galactic stability. Dr. Nash moved closer to his patient as the readings showed more instability. Thalvak, you need to rest. This conversation is making your condition worse. No, the alien said firmly. Marcus must understand. Your species is an anomaly that challenges everything we believed about intelligence and consciousness. Some consortium members want to limit human expansion because they fear what you might accomplish. Others want to harness your creativity for their own purposes. Marcus stood up feeling angry and betrayed. So our partnership was just an experiment? It began as an experiment, Thalvak admitted, pairing humans with different alien species to observe the psychological effects. But working with you became real for me. Your problem-solving abilities and intuitive understanding impressed me before they broke my mind. There has to be a way to fix this, Marcus said. Humans have been solving impossible problems for centuries. Thalvak's surface went completely dark. The irony is that you probably could solve this problem in ways we cannot imagine. But I may not survive long enough to see your solution. Dr. Nash was already preparing emergency medical procedures as Thalvak's vital signs began failing. I'm losing him, Marcus. Whatever caused this psychological break is destroying his ability to function. Marcus watched his partner slip away and felt the weight of a larger problem settling on his shoulders. If simply talking about human intelligence could drive aliens insane, then humanity's future in the galaxy was more precarious than anyone realized. He needed to understand exactly what made humans different and find a way to bridge the gap before more aliens suffered the same fate as Thalvak. The medical bay alarms began beeping as his partner's condition deteriorated further. Marcus knew that saving Thalvak was just the beginning of a much larger challenge that would test everything humans believed about their place among the stars. The situation on Titan's Edge got much worse over the next week. Thalvak's breakdown had been just the beginning of a station-wide crisis that nobody saw coming. 3 more aliens from different species started showing similar symptoms after. Other human workers shared stories about friends and family back on Earth. Marcus found himself in the middle of an emergency meeting with Commander Voss, a large reptilian alien who ran the mining station. The commander's scales were dark green with stress and his yellow eyes showed barely controlled anger. Explain to me, Reed, how casual conversation has turned my station into a psychiatric ward, Commander Voss said in his deep, gravelly voice. I don't understand it any better than you do, Marcus replied. We were just talking about people we knew, normal human stuff. Dr. Nash entered the meeting room carrying a stack of medical reports. The pattern is becoming clear, Commander. Every affected alien was exposed to descriptions of individual human achievement and creative problem-solving. Their psychological systems cannot process this information without breaking down. Commander Voss slammed his clawed hand on the table. How is this possible? We have been dealing with dozens of alien species for thousands of years without these problems, because those species all think in similar ways, Dr. Nash explained. Collective intelligence, specialized thinking, shared consciousness. Humans are the first individual-based intelligence most of them have encountered. Marcus watched through the meeting room window as medical teams carried another alien worker to the treatment center. This one was a gas dancer whose normally graceful movements had become jerky and uncontrolled. How many are affected now? 17 and counting, Dr. Nash said. The symptoms vary by species, but the cause is always the same. Exposure to concepts of human individual creativity and innovation. Commander Voss activated a communication device on the table. I am implementing emergency protocols. All human workers are restricted to quarters until we understand this situation better. That's not fair, Marcus protested. We didn't know this would happen. Fair or not, it is necessary, the commander replied. Your species appears to be a psychological weapon whether you intend it or not. Marcus felt anger building inside him. So we're prisoners now because our minds work differently. You are being contained for the safety of others, Commander Voss said firmly. I have reports coming in from other stations throughout the sector. Wherever humans work closely with aliens, these breakdowns are occurring. Dr. Nash pulled up holographic displays showing brain scans from the affected aliens. Commander, I've been analyzing the neural patterns, and I think I understand what's happening. These species evolved in stable environments where collective thinking provided survival advantages. Humans evolved on a chaotic world where individual innovation was necessary for survival. Explain, Commander Voss demanded. Earth's environment was unpredictable with frequent disasters and rapid changes, Dr. Nash continued. Humans had to develop the ability to think independently and make quick creative decisions without consulting a group. Other species evolved in more stable conditions where careful collective analysis was always possible. Marcus looked at the brain scans showing the chaos in alien neural networks. So, when they try to understand how we think individually, it breaks their group-based processing systems? Exactly, Dr. Nash confirmed. It's like trying to run individual software on a network computer. The system cannot handle the contradiction. Commander. Voss was quiet for a long moment studying the data. This information must be reported to the consortium immediately. The implications for human integration into galactic society are severe. What do you mean? Marcus asked, though he was starting to fear the answer. If human consciousness is inherently dangerous to other species, then humanity cannot be allowed to spread throughout the galaxy, Commander Voss said. The consortium will have to make difficult decisions about your species' future. Marcus felt cold understanding wash over him. You're talking about quarantining us on Earth. Or worse, the commander admitted. Some consortium members have already suggested that humanity represents an existential threat to galactic civilization. These psychological breakdowns will be seen as evidence supporting that position. Dr. Nash was still studying his medical data. There might be another explanation, Commander. I've been reviewing the files on affected aliens and noticed something interesting. The breakdowns only occur when aliens try to understand human thinking using their own mental frameworks. What are you suggesting? Commander Voss asked. Maybe. The problem isn't that human consciousness is dangerous, Dr. Nash explained. Maybe the problem is that other species are trying to process it wrong. Like trying to understand music by analyzing the mathematical frequencies instead of just listening to it. Marcus saw a possibility forming. What if we could find a way to help aliens understand human thinking without breaking their own mental systems? Impossible, Commander Voss said. Cognitive frameworks are fundamental to how species process reality. You cannot simply change them. Humans change their thinking all the time, Marcus pointed out. We adapt to new situations and learn new ways of solving problems. Maybe we could teach other species to do the same. Dr. Nash was nodding slowly. It would require developing entirely new approaches to interspecies psychology. Ways to bridge the gap between individual and collective consciousness, Commander Voss looked skeptical. Even if such a thing were possible, it would take years to develop and test. I have 17 sick aliens right now and more cases appearing daily. Marcus stood up with determination. Then we'd better get started immediately. Because the alternative is humanity being eliminated from the galaxy, and I'm not going to let that happen without a fight. The emergency alarms began sounding again, indicating another alien breakdown somewhere on the station. Marcus knew they were running out of time to find a solution before the crisis spiraled beyond any hope of control. Marcus spent the next few days confined to his quarters, but his mind wouldn't stop working on the problem. Something about the whole situation felt wrong beyond just the alien breakdowns. When he finally got permission to visit Tolvak in the medical bay, he decided to ask the questions that had been bothering him. The timing of all this seems too convenient, Marcus said to his partner, who was slightly more stable but still covered in crystal cracks. 18 months we worked together perfectly, and then suddenly one conversation destroys your mind. Tholvak's surface flickered weakly. What are you suggesting, Marcus? I'm suggesting that maybe this wasn't an accident, Marcus said quietly. Maybe someone wanted to see what would happen when I told you about human individual intelligence. That would mean the breakdown was intentional, Tholvak said, and his surface began glowing brighter as he processed this idea. But who would benefit from such an experiment? Marcus had been thinking about that question for days. Someone who wanted proof that humans are dangerous to other species. Someone who needed evidence to support eliminating us from the galaxy. Dr. Nash entered the medical bay carrying his usual stack of reports. Marcus, I've been reviewing communication logs from before the incidents began. There are some patterns that concern me. What kind of patterns? Marcus asked. Instructions to human workers suggesting they share stories about Earth culture and notable individuals, Dr. Nash explained. The messages came through normal work channels, so nobody questioned them at the time. Marcus felt his suspicions confirmed. Someone was encouraging us to talk about exactly the kind of things that would trigger alien psychological breakdowns. I found similar communication patterns at other stations throughout the sector, Dr. Nash continued. Always the same basic approach. Humans were subtly guided into conversations about individual achievement and creative problem-solving. Tholvak was becoming more alert as he listened. This suggests a coordinated effort to document human psychological effects on other species. But coordinated by who? Marcus asked, though he was starting to have ideas about the answer. Commander. Voss entered the medical bay unexpectedly, and Marcus noticed the alien looked nervous. Dr. Nash, I need those medical reports immediately. The consortium has called an emergency session about the human situation. Of course, Commander, Dr. Nash said, but Marcus caught something odd in his tone. After Commander Voss left with the reports, Marcus turned to Dr. Nash with growing suspicion. How long have you known about the communication patterns? Dr. Nash hesitated before answering. I suspected something was wrong from the beginning, but I couldn't prove it until now. You're not just a station medic, are you? Marcus said with certainty. I'm a xenopsychologist sent by Earth's government to monitor human integration with alien species, Dr. Nash admitted. When reports of psychological effects started coming in, they assigned me to investigate. Marcus felt betrayed, but also relieved to finally have some answers. So Earth knows about the alien breakdowns. Earth knows more than that, Dr. Nash said grimly. The consortium has been running systematic experiments on human-alien interactions for the past 2 years. This mining station isn't primarily a commercial operation. It's a research facility designed to study how human consciousness affects other species. Tholvak's surface went completely dark. I'm not your partner, Marcus. I am a test subject just as you are. The truth hit Marcus like a physical blow. How many humans know about this? Very few, Dr. Nash said. Most human workers throughout the galaxy believe they're doing normal jobs. Only a handful of government officials and researchers know about the consortium's real intentions. Which are what exactly? Marcus demanded. to determine whether humanity represents a threat that must be eliminated or a resource that can be controlled, Dr. Nash explained. The psychological breakdowns provide evidence for both positions depending on how you interpret them. Marcus was pacing now as anger and fear battled in his mind. So, some consortium members want to kill us all and others want to use us as weapons. The situation is more complex than that, Dr. Nash said. There are also factions that genuinely want to find ways for humans and aliens to coexist peacefully. But they're being outvoted by fear and greed? Tholvek spoke up weakly. The experiments were designed to fail, Marcus. My people were given detailed information about human cognitive abilities before you were assigned as my partner. We were told to analyze and categorize your thinking patterns, which guaranteed you'd experience cognitive cascade syndrome when you tried, Marcus realized. They wanted you to break down to prove humans are dangerous? The evidence will be presented to the full consortium within days, Dr. Nash said. Unless we can demonstrate an alternative solution, humanity's future in the galaxy will be decided by fear and politics rather than facts. Marcus looked at his broken partner and felt determination replacing his anger. Then we need to fix this situation before that meeting happens. How? Dr. Nash asked. The damaged aliens are getting worse and more cases appear daily. The medical evidence clearly shows that human consciousness is harmful to other species. The medical evidence shows that the current approach to understanding human consciousness is harmful, Marcus corrected. That's not the same thing at all, Tholvek. Surface began flickering with interest. You have an idea. I have the beginning of an idea, Marcus said. But it's going to require us to do something that nobody in the galaxy thinks is possible. Marcus knew that whatever solution he developed would have to be implemented quickly and work perfectly on the first try. The conspiracy against humanity had been carefully planned and executed, but it had one fatal flaw that the conspirators didn't understand. They were trying to control and predict a species that specialized in finding unexpected solutions to impossible problems. Marcus worked through the night developing his plan while Dr. Nash provided medical data and Tholvek offered insights into alien psychology. The solution came to him around dawn in a moment of inspiration that perfectly demonstrated the human thinking that had caused so much trouble. The problem isn't that human consciousness is too different, Marcus explained to his companions. The problem is that other species are trying to understand us by translating everything into their own mental frameworks. Explain this approach, Tholvek said, and his crystal surface showed cautious hope. When you tried to analyze how Yuki solved that quantum puzzle, you used collective intelligence models, Marcus said. You were trying to figure out which group of humans worked together to reach her conclusion because individual breakthrough insights don't exist in your worldview. Dr. Nash was following the logic. So, instead of understanding how she actually thought, you tried to force her achievement into a framework that couldn't contain it. Exactly, Marcus said with growing excitement. It's like trying to understand a symphony by reading the sheet music as a mathematical equation. You'll get data, but you'll miss the music entirely. Tholvek was becoming more alert as he processed this idea. You are suggesting that different forms of consciousness require different methods of comprehension. I'm suggesting that understanding doesn't require translation, Marcus said. Other species don't need to think like humans to appreciate what human thinking can accomplish. Dr. Nash looked skeptical. But how do you teach an alien mind to accept something that contradicts its basic assumptions about intelligence? Marcus grinned with the confidence that came from knowing he had found the right answer. You don't teach them to accept it. You teach them to experience it safely. Working together, they developed what Marcus called a cognitive bridge. Instead of trying to make aliens understand human individual intelligence, they created a way for aliens to observe human problem-solving without trying to analyze or categorize it. Like watching a dance performance without needing to understand the choreography, the first test was with Tholvek himself. Marcus presented his partner with the same type of quantum puzzle that Yuki had solved years ago. But instead of explaining the human approach to problem-solving, he simply let Thalvak watched while he worked through it using intuitive leaps and creative thinking. Do not try to understand my methods, Marcus instructed. Just observe the process without analyzing it. Thalvak's crystal surface remained calm as he watched. Marcus approached the problem from unexpected angles and made connections that seemed random but led to the correct solution. When Marcus finished, Thalvak was still stable and functioning. Normally, I do not comprehend how you reached that conclusion, Thalvak said. But I can accept that you did reach it through processes that my mind cannot replicate or analyze. That's the breakthrough, Marcus said excitedly. You don't need to understand human thinking to work with humans. You just need to accept that it works differently and produces valid results. Dr. Nash was amazed by the implications. It's like learning to appreciate music in a foreign language. You don't need to translate every word to enjoy the performance. They quickly developed the technique further and tested it with other affected aliens on the station. The key was teaching them to observe human creativity without trying to process it through their own cognitive frameworks, like admiring a sunset. Without needing to understand the physics of light or EFRSCTION. Within 3 days all 17 affected aliens were recovering. Their psychological systems stabilized once they stopped trying to analyze human consciousness and simply accepted it as a different but valid form of intelligence. Commander Voss was initially suspicious of the rapid improvement. How do we know? This solution is permanent. Because it addresses the root cause rather than just treating symptoms, Marcus explained. The aliens aren't getting better because they understand us now. They're getting better because they've learned to stop trying to understand us in ways that don't work. Word of the breakthrough spread quickly through the communication networks. Marcus found himself presenting the cognitive bridge concept to consortium representatives via deep space video conference. The solution was so elegantly simple that even the most skeptical officials had to admit it worked. Dr. Yuki Tanaka arrived at the station 2 weeks later as part of a research team sent to study the new interspecies psychology protocols. Marcus was pleased to finally introduce her to Thalvak, who was now fully recovered and fascinated by human cognitive processes in a healthy way. Your friend's problem-solving abilities are remarkable, Thalvak told Marcus after working with Yuki on several research projects. I still cannot comprehend how she makes the intuitive leaps that lead to breakthrough discoveries, but I no longer need to comprehend them to appreciate their value. That's the whole point, Marcus said with satisfaction. Different doesn't mean better or worse. It just means different. The consortium vote that would have determined humanity's fate was postponed indefinitely as representatives from dozens of species requested training in the new cognitive bridge techniques. Instead of being seen as a threat or a resource to be controlled, humans were now valued as partners who brought unique perspectives to galactic civilization. Marcus and Thalvak returned to mining work, but their partnership had evolved into something deeper than either imagined possible. They were no longer just a human and an alien working together. They were proof that different forms of consciousness could complement each other without losing their essential natures. The last report Marcus received from Dr. Tanaka showed that similar cognitive bridge programs were being established throughout the galaxy. Humans were finally finding their place among the stars, not through conquest or submission, but through the patient work of building understanding across the vast differences that made each species unique and valuable, standing in the deep tunnels of Titan's Edge, watching Thalvak's crystal surface glow with contentment as they worked together. Marcus realized that the greatest human achievement wasn't any individual breakthrough or innovation. It was learning to share their gifts with others while respecting what made every consciousness special and irreplaceable.